Why haven't we heard this story before? Maybe it's because we all tend to see what we expect to see. Why is this story having such an impact today? That might be a more relevant question. We spend a lot of time in this country working, looking for work, but also talking about work and thinking about work, our own work and the work of others. And we often describe who we are in terms of what we do. And having spent much of my life living outside of the United States, I can tell you that it's one of our distinguishing characteristics as Americans. Work is an essential part of the American dream. Now, of course, once I moved away from home, I realized that my experience growing up around scientists wasn't the norm for other places, or certainly for other times. And the fact is, for decades, computing was considered women's work. The men were the engineers and the women ran the numbers. And most of these women, regardless of their race, were hired as sub-professionals. And that put them above the clerical employees in the hierarchy, but it put them below the men who were generally hired in as engineers, including the black men who were hired in the 1950s. Now, the women often went on to do the same work as the men, but even when that was the case, the sub-professional grade meant that they were paid less money. For those of us in the workplace today, particularly for women who are just starting their careers, these women's stories aren't a fairy tale or simple inspiration. They're a playbook in challenging bias, disarming difficult colleagues, refusing to take no for an answer, and setting your expectations as high as possible. We love the first and only stories, but this is not one of them. These women were part of something that I think is more significant, and that is empirical evidence of group progress over time. They were exceptional, but none of these women had to be the exception, the only woman or the only black woman. They're like what I like to call extraordinary, ordinary people. Extraordinary, ordinary people. Unassuming and low-key about their work, but hard-working achievers nonetheless. Their goal, of course, wasn't to stand out because of their differences. It was to fit in because of their talent. The fact is today, now times are very different from the times of the women of Hidden Figures. There's a critical mass of women who understand the technical groundwork that was laid by these pioneers, and they're eager to dive headfirst into computing and engineering and science careers, no matter how obscure or how incongruous those vocations might appear to the friends and family and people around them. And that is what I believe gives this story the power to inspire enduring structural change for women in STEM fields and beyond.